So, My Hero Academia Vigilantes Manga Chapter 116 has officially been released, and let's just say that in this chapter, we get the potential death of a fan favorite character, and who might that character be? Well, you're gonna have to watch this review to find out right after this. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Man Drew, and I'm here to do my review of My Hero Academia Vigilantes Manga Chapter 116, titled In Darkness. Ooh. Yeah, when it comes to In Darkness, from what we see in this chapter, it may be referring to someone specifically dying, and who might that be? Well, we'll talk about that as soon as we get into the review. But if we remember what happened last chapter, we saw number 6 go through another transformation, going into this big flaming explosion kaiju and beginning to attack Koichi, with Koichi being heavily injured, down an arm, down a leg, and is barely able to move, and is probably at death's door. So in this chapter, we're gonna get a little bit continuation of that and see what happened to Koichi and potentially someone else. But before we get into it, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't done so, to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I cover My Hero Academia content as well as do my vigilante reviews every other Friday when it comes out. So if that's something that you're interested in and you want to see more of me, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And without the way, let's get right into the review. So, we actually start off this chapter with a continuation of last chapter, seeing the kaiju number 6 with his flaming, exploding lightning body literally slamming into the building. Luckily enough, he didn't kill Koichi with the first attack, but he did literally throw a whole bunch of rubble upon him, to the point where Koichi is pretty much trapped under this building, as you have the title of this chapter, In Darkness, with Koichi grabbing his injured arm, staring at us, the reader, with a shining light behind him, as well as, weirdly enough, Knuckle Duster behind him with his eyes darked out. Oh, that's not a good sign. So, from there, we also have the news reporters reporting on what's happening, that something's going on with Narita, that this monster is destroying the building, and that they need to continue recording, which means most likely we're going to have Koichi have his identity revealed to the world, or at the very least, the Crawler is going to be very famous, at least in the Narita area, because people are going to be recording him, most likely defeating number 6, so that's what that setup is, as well as we get a little bit of dread and like a little bit of like people like worried about what's going to happen to Narita, most likely going to tie into the idea that Narita is going to be under the protection of the Crawler. But from there, we actually get to see Koichi just in nothing but darkness, and this is just showing that he is trapped under the rubble and that he can't really see, and how he begins to think about how it's dark, how he lost so much blood, and how he's hurting, and that this may be the end of the line. But you have someone talking to him, and that person is Knuckle Duster, as Koichi recognizes his master, as he's like, oh, so you're giving up? It's the end of the line for you, huh, Koichi? Ha ha ha. You know, Knuckle Duster being Knuckle Duster, as we cut over to Soga, and how he's like, oh man, I need to have faith in Koichi. I need to do my job. So he's like, all right, Pops, let me wrap you up. Let me heal you. And he's like, hey, Pops, as he's like approaching Knuckle Duster, as Knuckle Duster is just slumped over in his chair like this. And I'm just gonna say it now. The implication in this chapter is that Knuckle Duster is most likely dead. And the reasoning why I'm saying that is, when it comes to the next few pages of this chapter, we just get a very heartwarming conversation between Knuckle Duster and Koichi, how they're talking about old times, pretty much like reconciliating or connecting once again. Knuckle Duster is still giving him a little bit more advice. Koichi believes that he's at the brink of death, and that is the reasoning why he's seeing Knuckle Duster at this moment, when in actuality this could be like a pseudo vision of his imagination, and that he's dreaming up Knuckle Duster being here as a way to push him forward so that he can get out of this situation, which, spoiler alert, he does. Or it literally could be something similar to Naruto, where you had Kakashi talking to his father in like the afterlife, and that at this moment they are in like the border between life and death, because they are both pretty much on death's door. And we sort of kind of saw something like this in My Hero Academia proper, when it came to Shigaraki and the entire chapter, which you could consider to be like a fever dream, or the moment that he was about to die, when he was being covered by his families and then walked into All for One as a form of resurrection. So it's not impossible that this is literally Knuckle Duster talking to him pretty much from the afterlife, because we do know that in a sense quirks can live on in the quirks themselves, as well as like you can technically bring people back to life. So it wouldn't be that surprising if this is actually Knuckle Duster when they're both at the point of death, and the reasoning why they're able to talk to each other is because they're both almost about to die, or because Knuckle Duster is pretty much dead. So yeah, like I said, they're just having a meaningful conversation. Knuckle Duster pretty much reminds Koichi of a way to alleviate his pain a little bit, to use his quirk in a different way. He is hurting a lot, and Knuckle Duster advised him to like, hey, why don't you just use your quirk and like wrap it around your pain so that it is like a shell. And Koichi's like, I don't know if it's gonna work. It requires a lot of skill. Oh, hey, I can do it. By the way, I can do it like Captain Celebrity and wrap it around my body. And some people may think, that seems a little bit weird, but this is Koichi we're talking about. Like, we've seen what he can do with his quirk, and a lot of the things that he has done, he's done on the fly, and that a lot of it has to do more with his confidence than anything else. He most likely has the skill and the ability to do it, which even Knuckle Duster brings up that even after he left, that Koichi and the others have been doing fine on their own. And Koichi is the type of character that really wouldn't take a whole much credit. And Koichi is the character that really wouldn't brag about his accomplishments, which, weirdly enough, I can relate to that a lot. But he isn't the type of person that would brag and kind of puts himself down, while Knuckle Duster is trying to push him up, showing him that what he has done has been due to his own power, and that all he was just a little bit of muscle helping him. So like I said, this is just a very meaningful conversation that is pretty much there to help lift Koichi up and to give him a little bit more confidence at the last moments, most likely, of Knuckle Duster's life. So it's sort of like their final words to each other, and that it's going to end with something very meaningful. And Koichi, even at the end of this conversation, still believes that he's going to die, and that he's grateful and happy that he can die with this conversation with Knuckle Duster. And most likely showing that because of Koichi's personality, he assumes that he's going to be the one to die, which means that most likely Knuckle Duster is actually the one that's going to die or is dead. But before Koichi could even say like, man, I'm so glad that even in my last moments I get to do this, you just have Knuckle Duster saying, oh, what are you talking about? We're going forward into the next stage, so take these, as he shows off his brass knuckles, as Koichi's like, what's going on? As you just get this double page spread of just Knuckle Duster saying, cause man, does it feel good to punch some villains, with his literal Knuckle Dusters beginning to shine brightly. And this leads to probably the coolest moment in this chapter, where you have number 6 just going into this building thinking about like, I'm not gonna let you run away, you're not gonna crawl away like a cockroach, I'm gonna flatten you whole with this building. And as he's about to deliver a strike, the rubble underneath where he's about to strike burst open, as you just have him trying to understand what is going on, as we just get an image of Koichi's fist with his slide and glide on his 4 points of his knuckles, as we get the crawler knuckle style. And then the chapter ends, and oh boy, this was a chapter. Pretty much for the most part, this chapter was pretty much a send-off, most likely, to Knuckle Duster, and allowing for Koichi and Knuckle Duster to have final words with each other without actually being there. And that either this is more of a figment of Koichi's imagination, which is allowing him to gain a little bit more confidence, because the main issue is that when it comes to him, he's a direct counter to number 6, but that if he doesn't have that confidence, that he really can't reach his full potential. So it could be him subconsciously allowing his full potential to be reached, or it could literally be Knuckle Duster giving him this advice, because Knuckle Duster is at the point of death or has already died, and before he dies completely or leaves this plane, that he's going to encourage Koichi at the last moment. So yeah, that's pretty much what this chapter is, and it's a little bit more set up for the final fight to conclude, where we're most likely going to get Knuckle Duster, or Knuckle Style the Crawler, defeat this new version of number 6. Potentially number 6 has another transformation, but in the end, Koichi is going to defeat him, and most likely his defeat of this villain is going to spread all over Narita news, where he will sort of kind of be the pseudo protector of Narita, and this is all that's building up to it. To which I have the idea that the reasoning why this is the end or the Crawler's final fight or final hurrah is because he's going to retire the Crawler name and become a completely different hero, and he's going to do it legally, so he will no longer be a vigilante. He'll be recognized by the people because the people are going to be the ones to recognize people as heroes. And if we remember what happened earlier in the series, vigilantes were heroes that the people just became recognizing them more for. So what's most likely going to happen is that after his broadcast of what he did to number 6, this gigantic monster, he's going to be sort of kind of officially deemed as a hero. And with that, he may get a new hero name, which means that this will be the Crawler's last fight. So yeah, overall, this is a very sentimental chapter between Koichi as well as Knuckle Duster, as well as setting up for the final clash between Koichi and number 6, and most likely having Koichi take on the role of a proper hero, or at the very least, continue the heroism that was instilled in him by Knuckle Duster himself. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about this chapter. I thought this was a very hyped chapter, but let me ask you, what did you think of this chapter? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Do you like the Crawler Knuckle style? And do you think that it's going to end next chapter or within the next few chapters? I'd like to see your thoughts down in the comments down below. So leave a like on this video, leave a comment down below, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like this type of content, and don't forget to hit that notification bell to be notified for whenever I upload more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!